Hey there, I'm Bernd from sunny Sydney, and this is the first video of my new channel, Tales from the Tank, which is a channel about aquariums, the fish keeping hobby, and everything around it. I've been in this hobby now again for about 5 years. This started when COVID came around and we were stuck at home, and so we went out and bought a little fish tank. And it escalated from there. As you will have heard maybe before, the number of tanks you have is always one less than you actually need. And so it happens. And what you see behind me is only a fraction of what's there at the moment. There's 6 tanks down there, 2 still in the garage, a larger one just to the right of the camera here, which you can't see, and then the largest one in the living room. I'll provide a tour of that a little later. If you're in a similar situation or you're just starting out, this is the channel for you. There's lots of stories to tell. It's never a dull moment with fish keeping. And so I thought I'd bring something back to the community. I've been benefiting greatly from all the good stuff that's already out there on YouTube. However, I think my own experiences and having taken all these inputs and found my own way in the way I keep my tanks, what technology I use, aquariums I set up, how I set them up, and all these kinds of aspects is worth sharing, giving back to you and to everybody out there, and hopefully it can help you along. At the same time, I'm still learning and will always be learning more. I've gotten into breeding fish now, just to maintain the hobby with a bit of income on the side. So what's next? I intend to do fortnightly videos. If I have more time, they will be more frequent. But if you are interested in hearing more about how all this came about and what kind of stories I have to tell, please do like and subscribe. That will help me greatly. There will be species reviews of the fish I'm keeping and others I'm interested in. There will be equipment reviews, anything from the tanks to the filters, everything else around it. Some tips and tricks, and all the rest of it. So the next thing you will be seeing on this channel then is what others have termed the fish room tour. As it happens in this case, this is actually my office. It was the only place in the house where I could set up this rack behind me and have it all around me, so to speak, and look after it as needed. What I think I might be doing now is just give you an idea of what's been happening since I started setting this up all again. And here's a little brief rundown on all the happenings over the last 4 or 5 years. So it all started out in the middle of 2020 with a little fluval 34-liter tank fluval flex. Really happy with the tank. Put in some Serpae Tetras, as you can see here. Beautiful fish. I'm really happy with the way they looked. I'm not so happy with the way they behaved in the end. That's a tale for another day, but you can see they were doing quite well. It gives you a bit of a taste of what I'm going to be talking about when you see them charging at each other most of the time. But the tank settled in nicely. I made my first experience with cycling before I put the fish in, and with the plants, etc., etc. But eventually the Serpae Tetras had to go, and a much more peaceful fish came along in the case of the Rasboras that you see here. Then we eventually got into shrimp, and the first attempt was a bit ambitious with those red crystals. They didn't do so well. But in the process, I also discovered the benefits of a cleanup crew, and one of the members of that one you can see on the left there being an Otocinclus. They are delightful little creatures. More to come of those. And the little pygmy Corydoras, they are really good to have as well. In a larger group, as I learned, much better because they can be quite shy. I moved from crystal shrimp to simple red cherries pretty quickly after the bad experience. But as you can imagine, with all these different fish species and shrimp, we now had to have 2 tanks. So a 57-liter fluval flex came into the fold, and the inhabitants were split across. The cherry shrimp, very much a successful story, not initially, but eventually they started breeding, and once they get going, and we never look back. And there's probably across the tanks that I have today a few hundred of those, because as you can see, they are very happily multiplying in the right conditions. Now, that many shrimp need space, so I needed to get myself a couple of little Kmart 20-liter tanks to accommodate it all. And they're with us to this day as grower tanks. Very practical little devices, very reasonable price too. Anyway, then we looked at some other fish, and the sparkling gouramis caught my eye, and they're really stunning fish and very interesting behaviors. I'm really fond of these ones. But again, we needed a bigger tank. So the Rasboras moved into the brand new Aquarium lifestyle, and were joined soon after by what I to this day think is the prettiest and most interesting fish in the lineup, and this is the German blue rams. The rams were briefly joined by a couple of cooliloches to deal with a snail infestation that I had acquired with plants I bought. Cooliloches were very efficient dealing with that problem. I had borrowed them from a fish shop and gave them back after they had done the deed. The ram pair did exceedingly well up to and including producing offspring. Unfortunately, the raising of the initial batches was not that successful, but that's for another video. As part of my shrimp acquisitions, which included also some Northern Territory algae eaters, which this one is not, but it came along and only became apparent after it grew to its full size. It's a long-armed shrimp, native to Australia, and as I quickly learned, it's also very dangerous for smaller fish and a somewhat messy eater. With the ever-increasing variety of fish and shrimp in the house, of course, inevitably, we needed a bigger tank. So this is an Aquarium Brilliance, and it now lives in our living room as the showpiece in the house. More on this one and all the other things in detail in other videos. So this is the story so far, and just more splashes of colors, with cardinaltetras and Apistogramma cacatoides being the most recent fish I focus on, and the cacatoides also breed. Special videos for this one coming as well. I hope this has whet your appetite for the hobby, or gave you ideas of what to do and which fish to explore. Please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss when I share my next tales from the tank. See you then.